Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Jake Talks Star Wars. Today, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 3 of Star Wars Rebels, titled Droids in Distress. And this episode is a lot of fun. This is the first regular episode after the premiere. So it's first regular episode after the premiere. And what I really like about this episode is it just dives right into the action. I mean, credits, the opening title card swishes away and boom, we are being chased by TIEs. We are in the gunner's seat blasting away at these TIEs that are chasing us down, and we are right into the action. And I really, really like that. The rest of the episode kind of goes from there. The Ghost Crew is struggling. They are running out of money. They're running out of supplies. They're running out of fuel. They are trying to figure out what they need to do to make a little bit of extra cash to survive, basically. And they end up going back to work for somebody they know may be a little kind of sort of sketchy, right? They go back to do some more work for Vizago. And that leads us to a planet that we're going to come back to later on in the series, a planet called Gorel. And once the Ghost Crew gets there, they are setting into this heist. It's this heist where they're going to be working with, the whole crew is going to be working together on this shuttle to get some weapons. Right? They're not sure what kind of weapons, but some kind of weapons from this deal between an imperial governor or lackey or imperial person and someone else, right? So we're going to be getting some kind of deal here. And that's really where we kind of get into the action. What I really love about this episode, one of the things I really love about this episode is this immediate nostalgia that hits because they're going on Star Tours, right? They're going on the shuttle, the Star Tours shuttle with the Star Tour droid that's piloting the shuttle. It's straight out of the ride. If you've ever been to MGM Studios, even before Star Wars, even before the Galaxy's Edge existed, they had Star Tours, which was a Star Wars ride. And it's still there. You can still go on it. And it's a lot of fun. But they had the droid and this shuttle and everything. It's so much fun. So that is great. But then we figure out who the droids in distress are. And it's R2-D2 and C3PO on their own mission, right? So this is the first time we've seen them in the series. I think it's the last time we'll see them in the series. But it's also the first time, chronologically, we've seen them since at this point, right, before when the show came out. It's the first time chronologically we've seen them since Revenge of the Sith. So we don't know where they're at or who they're with or what they're doing or anything like that. We know that this is R2-D2 and C3PO, and they're with this Imperial lady. She's some kind of bureaucrat for the planet of Lothal. And C3PO is, of course, there as a translator, because he's a protocol droid, fluent in 6 million forms of communication. He will tell you every chance he gets. And they're on this mission. But the Ghost Crew is on their own mission. So they set to kind of distracting everybody and learning the information they need to learn. Sabine ends up translating instead of the droid, so she can mistranslate things and hide the truth and learn where these weapons actually are and all this sort of thing. And what I really love in this episode, and we don't fully appreciate it yet because we haven't really dove into the series yet, is how much Chopper and R2-D2 are butting heads. Because they really are, in a lot of ways, not similar to each other at all. R2-D2 is a loyal friend. Chopper, as you will learn as the series progresses, is kind of a sort of a homicidal maniac. So to see them butting heads is really a lot of fun. But that's not really, the episode itself. Some things stick out to me, as we progress in the episode. Once they land on the planet and they know where the weapons are and they're going to go steal the weapons, Kanan sends Ezra to go and to go to the hangar where the weapons are and start spying, right, ahead of everybody else. And something always sticks out to me in these kind of shows, is the amount of physical fitness that everyone in the Star Wars galaxy seems to have, right? Because Ezra is like climbing through, these tiny, tight spaces, but then he's running like parkour on these rooftops, and you have to wonder how much of this is, maybe Ezra's physical fitness. Maybe the planet they're on has lower gravity, so he can jump farther. Maybe he's using the Force and he doesn't even realize it yet, right? So what always kind of sticks out to me is just like, my gosh, how impressive are these physical feats in this galaxy? And are they all Force assisted or are they not? Who knows? I don't know yet. That's a question for somebody else, I think. But I always think that's interesting. Now, once they get to the warehouse or the hangar, they find the stuff they're gonna steal, and the weapons they're stealing are these heavy duty weapons. They're called ion disruptors, and it immediately sets off Zeb. Zeb is like immediately unhappy with these weapons, unhappy with their presence. He doesn't even want to touch them, right? It's like this visceral reaction from him that I think is, again, very interesting, very telling, because what we know about Zeb from the first 2 episodes is he's a pretty big, pretty strong, pretty tough guy. And for him to have this kind of visceral reaction to a weapon is interesting. And we're going to learn more about that and like why he doesn't like these weapons. It's a really great piece of development for Zeb, where we start to understand more of maybe why he's kind of a jerk to Ezra sometimes, right? So I think it's good. It's a good piece there. But something else that sticks out to me, because Ezra is young. He's young. He doesn't understand. I don't think he's ever been off of Lothal before this, right? Before recently, I don't think he's ever been off of Lothal. So he's learning a lot about the galaxy, and he needs help to deal with this. And so Hera is going to call him aside and give him the time, right? She's going to say, "Hey, listen, Zeb has dealt with this thing in his past. Like, have you heard what happened to Lothal? Or not Lothal. Have you heard what happened to Lasan? Have you heard what happened to the Lasat people?" And, of course, Ezra doesn't really know. So then Hera tells him about this, for all intents and purposes, this genocide that happened to Zeb and his people. And Ezra knows that it's bad, and he knows that that's not good. But I'm always interested, and after watching it again earlier today, I'm always interested because he doesn't seem to have like a visceral reaction like we would have hearing about something like that. He's almost like, oh wow, that's rough, that's difficult. It's almost a commonplace thing, right? That's kind of the vibe I got. Like, oh wow, his planet got wiped out too. His people were wiped out too. And it just kind of goes to show you this potential dark truth behind what the Empire's doing here, is that they are wiping out planets. They are wiping out peoples, and people know, right? Because like Ezra knows that it's bad, but he's not shocked. He's not appalled. He just takes it as a truth. Like, oh wow, that does suck, right? So that, I think, is really interesting. And by this time, C-3PO and R2-D2 are on the ship, right? Because they've stolen the weapons. They've nabbed C-3PO and R2-D2 like accidentally, pretty much. And C-3PO, R2-D2 are on the ship. And I love how C-3PO is like immediately a narc. Like the first chance he gets, he calls Minister Tua. He tattles on where they're at and what's going on. He's with these thieves and these brigands, right? He is immediately a narc, and you can tell R2 is like, oh come on, dude, you're killing me. But you can't, our C3PO is going to do what C3PO does. So they get into their where they're going to drop these weapons. They're going to sell these weapons to Vizago, and again, I love how the team they're not in love with the idea of selling these weapons to Vizago, like these weapons. They got no problem selling him blasters like they did in the last episode, regular run-of-the-mill, E11 stormtrooper blasters. They got no problem with that, but these things are like nasty. They can take out a whole ship. They can take out a walker. They can vaporize a sentient being. These are nasty weapons. And the whole team, even Sabine, is not really thrilled about selling these weapons to Vizago, of all people. But they're gonna, right? They need the money. So they bring the weapons to him. They're going to sell the weapons, but they are interrupted by the Empire, and the Empire is going to come at them, right? And this was such a cool piece because, again, displaying the in-betweenness of Star Wars Rebels. These walkers are not ATSTs. They're something different. They're, I think, ATDPs is, I think, what they're called. I could be wrong. But they're something different. They're not the same as the walkers we see in Empire and Return of the Jedi. They're different. So I think that's really interesting because, again, it's kind of the proto-ATST, the kind of in-between ATST. And I love how we get to see how they're dropped, right? They got that little carrier ship that kind of drops them in. And that was really neat to see, just from a guy who grew up playing all the video games, because remember, you didn't get to see that kind of stuff in Rogue Squadron. Like in Rogue Squadron, a ship would land and then a walker would just kind of magically appear next to it. So you didn't get to see those kind of details. So seeing that's kind of fun, kind of neat. But they are going to, get in a conflict with the Empire. They're going to get in a gunfight with the Empire. Vizago takes off without paying, right? He takes half the weapons. He takes off without paying and leaves the Ghost crew with the rest of them. Kanan decides to destroy them and get them toast and, get them gotten rid of. And we see Kallus and Zeb kind of go at it, right? Kallus pulls out his bow staff, his bow rifle, which is the same weapon that Zeb uses. And Zeb confronts him, says, "Hey, what are you doing? That's not yours. You can't have that. That's a Lasat weapon only. That's only for the honor guard." And Kallus just really, callously, right? No pun intended. Like, yeah, I know. Where do you think I got it? Yeah, I took it from one. The guy, the last honor guard had it, didn't need it anymore. So Kallus, says, yeah, I murdered somebody you probably know. I killed a guy you probably know to get this. And they're talking about the ion disruptors, and it's revealed that Kallus gave the order to use those ion disruptors, just casually dropping that, oh yeah, I ordered that genocide. What are you going to do about it? So they end up fighting, and Kallus gets the drop on Zeb. Kallus almost gets him, but you see Ezra really use the Force the first time, and again, maybe not the first time, but you see him use the Force to save Zeb. He pushes Kallus out of the way and pushes him off into that stone and saves Zeb, which is huge, and that's something that Kanan sees, and Kanan knows, like, okay, now I got to get serious about this kid, because this kid's got some real abilities that he's using, sometimes by mistake, sometimes not even on purpose. He's using these real abilities. So Kanan knows now he's got to get serious about this kid. So that's good. Ship takes off. They're going to give the droids back. They figure out how they're going to give the droids back to their owner, and they link up to the owner. And again, I love the cameos we see, because it's a blockade runner. It is a Tantive 4 style blockade runner. I don't remember if it's a Tantive 4 or not, but it is that style of blockade runner. And when we get inside, it's Bail Organa. It's another cameo, right? So we get another character from the prequel era show up in this series. And at this point, we don't know a lot about Bail Organa and his involvement in the rebellion yet. because, this is pre-Andor and all those kind of things. But we know through lore and through everything else that he's involved. So seeing him is kind of neat. Kanan does not recognize him, even though Kanan was a Padawan during the Clone Wars. And Kanan would have, probably been Bail Organa adjacent at different points in his career, different points in his life. He was a pretty young kid at the time. I think he was only like 11 or 12 maybe. So he doesn't recognize Bail Organa, but Bail Organa drops a little Jedi saying on him, right? And Kanan's like, hey, whoa, isn't that a Jedi saying? And Bail Organa just kind of walks away from it. Because again, it's not really safe for either one of them to openly recognize that stuff at this point in the galaxy's history. It's not safe to really mention that or talk about that or openly talk about it. So I love the Bail Organa cameo, and I love how great of a tease it is early on. You think back to my complaint from the first 2 episodes, right? That this isn't really about the Rebel Alliance, it's about these people. In my original watch of this all these years ago, that was kind of assuaged almost immediately. I said, wow, cool. Okay, we are on the fringes of the real Rebel Alliance here. And we've got Bail Organa kind of in the mix, which is really, really neat. So I loved seeing that tease. And they really, again, they hint at these larger things to come later on. Like, yeah, we're kind of small with this crew right now, but there's more to it. There's more in the galaxy. I also love how it's kind of revealed that Bail Organa is using R2-D2 and C-3PO as a tool to audition the Ghost Crew. He's learning about the Ghost Crew to see if they're going to be something he can use, if they're going to be a group of people he's comfortable with, working with, or a group of people he's comfortable using in his network, right? Because as will be mentioned later on in the series, and as we will learn in other series, not all rebels are equal. And not all rebels are going to be like the Ghost Crew. There's going to be some rebels out there, some rebel cells that are positively bloodthirsty and not at all on the level. So Bail Organa doesn't want to work with just anybody. He wants to really get a good handle on who he's going to work with and who he's willing to work with. So using the droids to audition them kind of on the DL, I think was a really cool idea. I really liked that. But yeah, it's early on in the Rebels series. We're still seeing development, learning how the team works together, learning the dynamics between the team. But this is another strong episode to really keep that hype going, because even though it's kind of an episode where nothing really huge happens, we get enough hints and drops to kind of keep us going and hype for the next show, especially with the Bail Organa cameo and the promise of Kanan that Jedi training is going to start in earnest soon between Kanan and Ezra, right? So that's really, really neat. I think some people maybe it's easy for them to see this episode as like filler, but it's not. I don't think that it is. The nice thing about the Rebels series, this is a nice thing about the Rebels series, kind of a hallmark of this series. They've got 15 to 22 episodes to work with each series, each season. So with 15 to 22 episodes, you can really take your time telling stories, and you can go down some rabbit holes that you really couldn't go down in modern contexts, right? Nowadays, even shows like The Bad Batch only have 10 or 12 episodes. It feels like. Maybe they have more, but it feels like they're not very long. So having these 15 to 22 episodes, you get a little bit more space to breathe and a little bit more time to tell your story, which is good because it gives you episodes like this that, again, and this is a phrase I say a lot, kind of that slow burn of that's going to pay off later, these breadcrumbs that are going to pay off later. So that's my thoughts on Droids in Distress. It's a great episode. I enjoy it. So thanks again for joining me on this episode of Jake Talks Star Wars. Comment below your thoughts on the episode. Don't forget to share and subscribe. You can also follow me at Jake Talks Star Wars on Instagram and Threads. And I'll be getting more content up there in the future as well. Join me next time for a review and discussion of Rebels Season 1, Episode 4, Fight or Flight. It's a fun episode too. Kanan and Ezra, or pardon me, Zeb and Ezra are going to have some shenanigans. So that's a fun episode too. So be sure to join me and check that out as well. And until next time, guys, take care of each other, and may the Force be with you.